Welcome to Talmudic Treasures. Today we're learning Gittin page 45, which reminds me of a movie in 1996 which had actors such as Mel Gibson and Rene Russo, the movie called Ransom, in which there were kidnappers that took their son and asked for a significant amount of money because they were extremely wealthy, a very affluent family. And these kidnappers thought this would be a good way of making a quick buck. Now, the Talmud over here actually talks about a similar idea because there's a special mitzvah called Pidyon Shvuyin, namely that you have an obligation to be able to redeem a person who was kidnapped. Now, this obligation is not just for the family, but actually it's for the community at large. And therefore, because of that, the Talmud tells us that when it comes to paying, you should not do Yasser al Kidei Demehen. You should only do the normal amount, but it shouldn't be an extremely high amount. What the normal amount, there's nothing normal about it, but it means that you should only pay their worth, but not an extremely high amount of money. If they're asking for $100 million, that's something in which will not be acceptable. And the Talmud is saying, we will make this declaration that we will never pay that amount. Now, why? So the Talmud gives two reasons. First of all, as I said, it's not just a family obligation to redeem them, it's a communal one. And therefore, if, let's say again, they're asking for $100 million, so that is a tremendous financial burden on the community. And therefore, because of that, as the community has so many other obligations and needs, it's going to be a tremendous burden to have to pay hundreds of millions of dollars. The second reason why we will never pay that amount is because you're incentivizing terrible behavior. If a criminal knows that they could easily make $100 million just by kidnapping someone, and we find that they were successful or others were successful, then they're going to think this is a good idea. And therefore, we're not going to pay that much. We're not going to reward criminals, just like we don't negotiate with terrorists. We're going to pay a small amount to placate them to get this person back, but not this absorbent amount. Now, why does the Talmud have to give two reasons? It's because there could be a potential difference between the two. In the following scenario, what if the family members are extremely rich? Therefore, there's no communal pressures. The community will not need to pay. But the problem is, even though the family has $100 million, but by them paying, it will again still be the problem of this incentive that kidnappers are going to look after and find very wealthy people and kidnap their children and demand these huge ransoms, which is precisely what happened in that movie. Now, it's very fascinating, as a spoiler alert, in the movie, instead of giving the money to get his son back, he took all the money, and on television he said that this is a bounty on your head for having my child. So he said, you're never going to get this money, but instead, now other people will be able to hopefully find my child, and this will be reward for them finding my child, and of course you'll be arrested and punished. Now, this is a very interesting approach, even though at the time it was considered not to be a wise idea, because that will more than likely cause those kidnappers to harm the child. But nonetheless, if we think about it, by doing that, what will end up happening? First of all, it's not a burden on the community, but it's also not going to cause an incentive for people to want to commit this crime. On the contrary, now that you know that every single person in the world is looking out for you, therefore maybe it will be less likely that this crime will ever in the future be committed.